My name is Seraphina Cross, and despite everything I've achieved, I was never good enough for my family. But that night, everything changed. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to walk away from someone who refused to see your worth. I was 31 when it happened. By then, I had already built something most people only dream of, a portfolio worth $12 million through my investment firm, Meridian Capital Solutions, based in Asheville, North Carolina. While my family saw Asheville as some hippie, mountain town, I saw untapped potential. Craft breweries going national, sustainable tourism, tech companies relocating for the lifestyle. I invested early in companies that would define the new South. My success wasn't luck. It was 18-hour days, missed birthdays, skipped holidays, and a relentless focus that turned a $25,000 inheritance from my grandmother into an empire. I'd identified market gaps others missed, funded startups that revolutionized industries, and built relationships with entrepreneurs who were reshaping the economy. But to my father, Sterling Cross, none of it mattered. He was fourth-generation textile money from Charlotte, the kind of man who still belonged to country clubs that whispered about new money and appropriate investments. My older sister Carolyn had married a senator's son and was raising the perfect political family. My younger brother Preston was finishing his MBA at Wharton and would soon join the family's traditional investment firm. And then there was me, the daughter who'd abandoned her heritage to chase trends in the mountains. Irony wasn't lost on me. My trend chasing had earned more in 5 years than their traditional firm had in the last decade. But profit without prestige was just commerce to them, not success growing up. I'd been the family's problem solver. When Caroline's first husband cheated and she needed a divorce lawyer, I found the best one and quietly paid the retainer. When Preston got arrested for drunk driving in college, I hired the lawyer who kept it off his record. When my parents' investment in a golf course development went south, I bought out their position through a shell company to save their reputation. Each time I expected acknowledgement, maybe even gratitude. Instead, I got uncomfortable silence, as if my ability to solve problems was somehow unseemly. As if money earned through intelligence and hard work was less valuable than money inherited through bloodlines. The breaking point had been building for years. Family dinners where my achievements were glossed over while Preston's business school projects were celebrated. Holiday gatherings where Caroline's social calendar was dissected with fascination while my company's quarterly reports were met with polite disinterest. Started declining invitations, claiming work commitments. It was partly true I was building something incredible, but it was also self-preservation. Why subject myself to rooms where I was treated like a curiosity rather than a success? Every September, the Cross family gathered at Highland Crest, resort in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. It wasn't just any resort. It was a historic mountain retreat spanning 800 acres. With a private lake, championship golf course, spa, and accommodations that started at $1,500 a night. The resort had been in the Morrison family for 4 generations, and my family had been vacationing there for 15 years. It was our sacred long weekend. No phones during family time, no work talk at dinner. Just family, tradition, and the kind of understated luxury that spoke in whispers rather than shouts he'd missed the previous 3 years. The first year, I was closing a deal that would eventually fund a renewable energy project powering half of western North Carolina. The second year, I was in California, finalizing an investment in a startup that would become a billion-dollar company. The third year, I was testifying before Congress about sustainable investment practices. Each absence had been noted, cataloged, and filed away as evidence of my priorities. This year, I was determined to be present. I'd even planned something extraordinary 4 months before the reunion. I'd acquired something unprecedented, a complete collection of signed first editions from Maya Angelou, including handwritten notes and personal letters. The collection had belonged to a private collector who'd been Angelou's personal friend. It included I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, gathered together in my name, and 12 other works, plus correspondence that revealed intimate details about her writing process. The collection had cost me $130,000, I knew my father's passion for literature. I knew his pride in the family's small but prestigious book collection. I knew that no one, not Carolyn with her political connections, not Preston with his business school network, could give him something this rare. This perfectly chosen, I imagined the moment, him recognizing the significance immediately, his eyes lighting up with the kind of intellectual excitement I'd seen when he discovered a rare volume at an estate sale. For once, I would be the daughter who understood his deepest passions. I'd even researched the presentation. The books would be displayed in a custom-made mahogany case with museum-quality preservation features. Each volume would be protected by archival materials, with the letters arranged in chronological order. It would be a gift worthy of a museum, given with the love of a daughter who'd paid attention to what mattered to her father. I spent weeks preparing for the reunion. I studied recent literary acquisitions, researched Maya Angelou's lesser-known works, and prepared talking points about the collection's historical significance. I wanted to demonstrate that this wasn't just an expensive purchase. It was a carefully considered gift that reflected genuine understanding of my father's interests. I also prepared myself emotionally. I practiced gracious responses to the subtle criticisms I'd learned to expect. I rehearsed conversations about my business that would be informative without being overwhelming. I even selected my wardrobe carefully, successful but not ostentatious, sophisticated but not intimidating. The drive to Highland Crest was beautiful. September in the Blue Ridge Mountains was spectacular, rolling hills painted in early autumn colors, valleys shrouded in morning mist, and peaks that seemed to touch the sky. I'd forgotten how peaceful the mountains could be, how different the rhythm of life was from the city. Highland Crest looked exactly as I remembered, a grand stone lodge nestled against forested hills, with wraparound porches and floor-to-ceiling windows that captured every angle of the mountain vista. I'd upgraded to the presidential suite, a small act of defiance that cost me $2,500 for 3 nights. If they were going to judge me anyway, I might as well give them something substantial to judge. The family was already assembled when I arrived. The reunion dinner was in the resort's pinnacle room, a private dining space with panoramic mountain views. The Cross family took up the entire space. Parents, siblings, spouses, children, and my father's sister aunt, Margaret with her husband James. I wore a charcoal gray Alexander McQueen dress that had cost more than most people's monthly salaries. My jewelry was understated but flawless, a Van Cleef and Arpels necklace that caught the light subtly. I wanted them to see success without feeling threatened by it. The conversation was predictably familiar. Carolyn discussed her husband's latest political campaign and their children's achievements at their exclusive private school. Preston talked about his internship at Goldman Sachs and his plans after graduation. The adults nodded approvingly, asking follow-up questions and offering advice. When the conversation turned to me, it was perfunctory. "How's business, Seraphina?" Followed by polite nods when I mentioned recent successes. No follow-up questions. No curiosity about the companies I'd funded or the innovations I'd supported. Just the social equivalent of checking a box. I waited until dessert to present the collection. The mahogany case was wheeled in on a custom cart, covered with a silk cloth that I'd had embroidered with the family crest. The presentation was deliberately theatrical. I wanted this moment to be memorable. "I have something special for you, Dad," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I know how much you love literature, particularly works that explore the human experience with honesty and courage." I removed the cloth with a flourish, revealing the collection in all its glory. The books were arranged in chronological order, each one protected by archival materials but clearly visible. The letters were displayed in acid-free folders, with typed transcripts providing context for each piece of correspondence. The table went silent. My father approached the case with the kind of reverence I'd hoped for, his fingers hovering over the glass that protected the books. For a moment, I thought I'd succeeded. His face held that expression I'd seen when he examined truly exceptional literary works, focused, almost spiritual appreciation. Then Preston laughed. "Seraphina, this is incredible, but you do realize Dad's been transitioning his collection to digital formats, right?" His eyesight isn't what it used to be, and he's been using audiobooks and e-readers for the past couple of years. The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at my father, searching his face for contradiction, for some sign that Preston was wrong. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," my father said carefully. But Preston's right. I've been having trouble with printed text lately. My doctor says it's age-related, nothing serious, but I've been adapting to different formats. What happened next was a masterclass in family dynamics. Each person at the table found a way to demonstrate their superior knowledge of my father's situation. Carolyn leaned forward with practiced concern. "Oh, Sarah, didn't you know? We've been helping Dad build his digital library. I've been finding audiobook versions of his favorite classics, and my kids have been teaching him to use the new reading apps." Preston, emboldened by his earlier contribution, continued. "I actually set up a whole system for him. High-quality audiobooks, large print e-readers, even some specialized software that can read text aloud. It's been a family project." Aunt Margaret joined the chorus. "James and I have been researching assistive technologies. There are some remarkable innovations for people with vision challenges, much more practical than traditional books." Each comment was delivered with concern and helpfulness. But the subtext was clear. I was the absent daughter, the one who didn't know about family challenges, the one who threw money at situations instead of offering practical support. My mother, Patricia, delivered the final blow with her perfectly modulated voice. "It's extraordinary, dear, but perhaps next time you could coordinate with the family before making such an ... investment. We could have guided you towards something more useful." The word investment hung in the air like an accusation, just as it had years before with the wine. As if I'd purchased the collection as a financial speculation rather than a heartfelt gift to Uncle James. Perhaps feeling left out of a family education session, decided to contribute his wisdom. "You know, Seraphina, this is exactly the kind of gesture that shows how out of touch you've become. All that success, but you're losing connection with what's actually happening in your family's lives." "I've been building a business," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've been working." "We all work," Carolyn said, her political wife's smile perfectly calibrated. "But family comes first, being present, understanding what people actually need instead of what you think they should want." Preston, drunk on family approval, couldn't resist adding his own wisdom. "It's like you're trying to solve problems that don't exist while missing the real issues. Classic entrepreneur mistake, assuming you understand the market better than your customers." The comparison of my family to customers was particularly cutting. It reduced my gesture to a business transaction, my love to a market miscalculation. Worst part was the children, Caroline's twins, ages 12 and 14, watching this unfold with wide eyes. Learning that this was how family treated each other, that effort was mockery. That success was somehow shameful when it didn't. Come with family approval, my father closed the case gently, reverently. "We'll find a place for it in the library," he said, which everyone understood meant it would be displayed but never used. A 1-100-30-1000-$. Reminder of my failure to understand my own family's needs. I excused myself before coffee, claiming a headache. But instead of going to my suite, I walked the resort grounds, my heels clicking against the stone pathways. The September night was crisp. Stars brilliant in the clear mountain air. I found myself on the resort's famous overlook, a stone terrace that provided a panoramic view of the valley below. The lights of small towns twinkled like earthbound stars, and the silence was broken only by the distant sound of a stream and the whisper of wind through the pines. That's when I started crying. Not the gentle tears of disappointment, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who just realized she'd been fighting a war she could never win. They didn't want me to be successful. They wanted me to be grateful for their tolerance of my success. They wanted me to shrink myself down to a size that didn't threaten their comfortable narrative about family hierarchy and appropriate ambition. I thought about the companies I'd funded, the entrepreneurs I believed in, the innovations I'd supported. I thought about the jobs I'd helped create, the communities I'd helped transform, the future I'd helped build. None of it mattered here. None of it translated into the currency they valued: presence, conformity, and the kind of success that enhanced rather than challenged established order. I pulled out my phone and called my assistant, Marcus. Chun. It was nearly midnight, but he answered on the second ring. Marcus, I need you to research something for me. Highland Crest Resort. Complete financial analysis. Ownership structure, debt obligations, cash flow, everything. I want to know if this place is vulnerable. Seraphina, it's late. Are you okay? You sound... I'm fine. I just need to know if this place can be acquired. What Marcus found over the next week was fascinating. The Morrison family, for all their generational wealth and mountain aristocracy, had been struggling for years. The resort was beautiful but outdated, charming but inefficient. They'd been hit hard by changing travel patterns, increased competition. From newer resorts and the general economic uncertainty that affected luxury hospitality, the numbers were stark. Highland Crest was carrying $18 million in debt, secured by the property itself. The resort was probably worth $35 million in peak condition, but it needed significant capital investment to remain competitive. The Morrisons were asset-rich but cash-poor. Trapped in the classic family business dilemma of needing money to make money, they weren't actively seeking a buyer, but they were vulnerable. The right offer, presented at the right time, could be... Irresistible Marcus also discovered something interesting. The resort's future depended on a major renovation and expansion project that the family couldn't afford. Without significant investment, Highland Crest would gradually decline from prestigious destination to nostalgic relic. I didn't approach the Morrisons directly. Instead, I had my legal team reach out to their family attorney with a confidential inquiry. I was interested in discussing a potential partnership or acquisition, but only if the conversation could be conducted with complete discretion. The offer was strategic: $25 million. Cash, no contingencies, with the option for the Morrison family to retain a consulting role and residential rights on the property. It was enough to clear their debts, fund the necessary improvements, and provide them with financial security. Eleanor Morrison, the family matriarch, agreed to meet with me at her private residence in Charlottesville. She was 79, elegant, in the way that only comes from generations of refinement, and practical enough to recognize an opportunity when she saw one. Why Highland Crest? She asked, studying me across the tea service in her sunlit morning room. Because it's exceptional, I said, and because I understand what it means to build something worth preserving. You're not planning to turn it into condominiums or some modern monstrosity? Mrs. Morrison, I want to enhance every aspect of what makes Highland Crest special. The architecture, the grounds, the traditions. I just want to ensure it survives for future generations. She smiled then, the first genuine warmth I'd seen from her. You're not what I expected from a venture capitalist. What did you expect? Someone who would want to change everything to maximize profit. I laughed. I want to maximize beauty, tradition, and sustainability. Profit follows when you get those things right. The sale closed on November 30th. I became the owner of Highland Crest Resort without fanfare, without publicity, without my family knowing. The existing management team stayed on with improved compensation packages. The staff received raises and better benefits. To any casual observer, nothing had changed, but I held the deed. I controlled the reservations. I decided who was welcome. I also immediately began the renovation and expansion project the Morrisons had dreamed of but couldn't afford. New spa facilities, updated guest accommodations, enhanced dining options, and sustainable energy systems. Highland Crest would become not just a preserve of the past, but a model for the future. I waited until February to make my move. The Cross. Family always made their summer reservations in early spring, booking the same cluster of rooms they'd occupied for 15 years. This year, when my father's assistant called, she was told that the resort was undergoing extensive renovations and would be closed to outside guests for the foreseeable future. That's impossible, she said. The Cross family has had a standing arrangement for 15 years. I understand, the reservations manager replied, reading from the script I provided. Unfortunately, due to the renovation schedule and limited capacity, We're unable to accommodate outside guests this year. We'd be happy to provide recommendations for comparable properties in the area." My father called personally, invoking his long relationship with the Morrison family. Then my mother, using her most persuasive tone. Then Preston, attempting to leverage business connections. The resort's response was polite but firm. The renovation was extensive, the timeline was fixed, and no exceptions could be made. The family group chat exploded with theories and complaints. Had the Morrisons lost their minds? Was this some kind of cash grab? Had they sold to developers who were going to destroy the resort's character? Nobody suspected me. Why would they? I was just Seraphina, their financially successful but emotionally tone-deaf daughter, who didn't understand the importance of family traditions. The revelation came in April, when my father's frustration finally overcame his pride and he called me directly. "Seraphina, I don't know if you have any connections in the hospitality industry, but we're having a situation with Highland Crest. They're claiming to be closed for renovations, but I've heard from friends who've been able to book rooms. It's almost like they're specifically excluding us." His voice carried a note of confusion and hurt that I'd never heard before. For the first time in our relationship, he was asking for my help without condescension or skepticism. "That's strange, Dad. What kind of renovations are they doing?" "They won't give specifics. Just keep saying it's a comprehensive upgrade that will take most of the year. But the Morrison family has been there for 4 generations. They wouldn't just shut down during peak season without a compelling reason." "Let me make some calls," I said. "I might be able to find out what's really happening." I waited 3 weeks before calling him back, long enough to let the uncertainty build, short enough to maintain credibility. "I have some interesting news," I said. I was able to get information about Highland Crest's situation. The good news is that the renovations are real and the resort is going to be better than ever. The bad news is that the new owner has very specific ideas about the kind of guests they want to welcome. The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "New owner?" He said finally. "The Morrisons sold to someone who values respect, understanding, and genuine appreciation for what makes a place special. Someone who believes that traditions should be earned, not assumed." Another long pause. "Seraphina, are you telling me that you bought Highland Crest?" "I'm telling you that I remember every word of last September's dinner. I'm telling you that some investments are about more than money. And I'm telling you that exclusivity works both ways." My father drove to Asheville 2 days later. He'd never visited my home, never seen the mountain house I'd restored, never acknowledged that I'd built something beautiful in a place he dismissed as beneath our family's standards. He stood in my living room, looking out at the Blue Ridge, mountains that I'd chosen as my backdrop, and for the first time in my adult life, he seemed uncertain. "You bought an entire resort out of spite?" He finally asked. "No, Dad, I bought a resort because it was undervalued and had incredible potential. I'm using my ownership to teach a lesson about respect because you left me no choice. This is vindictive, Seraphina. This isn't how families should treat each other, isn't it? Because last September, I learned that family humiliates each other. In public, that family dismisses heartfelt gestures as market miscalculations. That family makes someone feel like a stranger in their own story, no matter how hard they try to belong." He sat down heavily in my leather chair, looking older than his 65 years. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously, but you meant every word. You wanted to put me in my place, to remind me that despite everything I've achieved, I'll never understand you the way Carolyn and Preston do. You wanted me to be grateful for your tolerance of my success. So what now? You're going to keep us away from Highland Crest forever?" "I'm going to protect something I care about from people who don't appreciate it. There's a difference." What happened next surprised everyone, including me. My father didn't leave angry. He didn't threaten legal action or demand I reconsider. Instead, he asked to see the rest of my house. I showed him the home office where I'd built my empire, the library where I kept books on sustainable investing and innovative business models. I showed him the art collection I'd assembled, works by living artists whose careers I'd supported, photographs of the projects I'd funded, paintings that captured the natural beauty I'd chosen to live among. I didn't know, he said, standing in my study, looking at the wall of awards and recognition letters from various business organizations, environmental groups, and community development agencies. I didn't know you'd built all this. You never asked, I assumed. I thought you were just following trends, chasing whatever seemed profitable at the moment. I invest in the future, Dad. Clean energy, sustainable agriculture, innovative technologies that solve real problems. I don't just move money around, I help build solutions. He picked up a framed photo from my desk, me at the groundbreaking ceremony for a solar farm I'd helped finance, surrounded by local officials and community leaders who'd worked to bring clean energy to their region. The Maya Angelou collection, he said quietly. You didn't just buy expensive books. You bought literature that meant something to you personally, that you thought would connect us through shared appreciation of important voices. I bought a gesture of love, I said. I bought hope that we could find common ground. The restoration of Highland Crest took 8 months. I was involved in every decision, every detail, every choice that would determine the resort's future. The renovation honored the original architecture while adding modern amenities. The grounds were expanded and enhanced with sustainable landscaping. The dining program was elevated to feature local ingredients and innovative cuisine, but more importantly, I created new traditions. Highland Crest became a destination for entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators. I hosted retreats for sustainable business leaders, conferences for clean energy advocates, and gatherings for people who were building the future rather than just preserving the past. The resort reopened in June, more beautiful than ever. The reviews were extraordinary. The bookings were full. Highland Crest had been transformed from a family retreat into a destination that attracted people from around the world. The Cross family didn't vacation at Highland Crest that summer. But something else happened. They started coming to me. Preston came first, driving up from Charlotte with his girlfriend to see the resort he'd heard so much about. I gave them the full tour, explaining the sustainable technologies we'd implemented, the local partnerships we'd developed, the innovation programs we'd launched. By the end of the weekend, he was asking me about impact investing and taking notes on ESG strategies. Caroline came with her family for a long weekend in July. Her children were fascinated by the solar arrays and wind turbines, the organic gardens and water reclamation systems. The 14-year-old announced she wanted to study environmental engineering. The 12-year-old asked if I could teach him about sustainable business. My parents came for Labor Day weekend. My father spent hours in the resort's expanded library, asking thoughtful questions about the books I'd selected, listening to the stories behind the literary programs I created. My mother helped me choose plants for the memorial garden I dedicated to writers who'd inspired positive change. Highland Crest is now more than a resort. It's a model for sustainable luxury hospitality. We've been featured in architectural magazines, sustainability journals, and travel publications. We've won awards for environmental innovation, community engagement, and business excellence, but the most important recognition came from an unexpected source. Last month, my father wrote me a letter, not an email or text, but a handwritten letter on his personal stationery. Dear Seraphina, it began. I owe you an apology that's 15 years overdue. I've spent your entire adult life failing to see what was right in front of me, a daughter who combined intelligence, ambition, and conscience in ways that should have made me proud from the beginning. Highland Crest is extraordinary, but it's extraordinary because you made it so. You didn't just buy a resort. You created a vision of what hospitality could be when it's guided by values rather than just profit. You've built something that honors the past while embracing the future. And that's exactly the kind of leadership our family and our world needs. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to choose between success and family. Most of all, I'm sorry I was too proud to learn from you sooner. Your mother and I would be honored to be guests at Highland Crest whenever you'll have us. Not because we're family, but because we're finally ready to appreciate what you've built with love and respect. Instead, the Maya Angelou collection now has a permanent home in Highland Crest Library, displayed in a beautiful case that allows guests to appreciate the books and letters while protecting them for future generations. We've created a literary series that brings writers and thinkers to the resort for readings, discussions, and workshops. My father was the first speaker in the series, giving a talk about the importance of literature in understanding social change. He spoke about Maya Angelou's influence on his own thinking, about the power of words to transform perspectives, and about the gift of having a daughter who understood the connection between literature and life. The Cross family now has a permanent reservation at Highland Crest, not because they're family, but because they've earned their place through respect, understanding, and genuine appreciation for what the resort represents. I learned that revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about creating something so valuable, so meaningful, so undeniably excellent that it forces people to reconsider their assumptions about what matters. I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up with open hearts and open minds, who chooses to see you as you are rather than as they need you to be. And I learned that the most powerful revenge is success so complete, so authentic that it transforms not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. When you stop performing for people's approval and start building for your own values, something magical happens. The right people find their way to you, and the wrong ones become right people. Highland Crest still stands in the Blue Ridge Mountains, more beautiful than ever. The traditions continue, but now they're traditions worth preserving based on respect, appreciation, and the kind of excellence that comes from understanding what truly matters. Resort is booked solid for the next 2 years. We have a waiting list of guests who want to experience what we've created. But there's always room for family, real family, the kind that's built on love and respect rather than just shared DNA A&D, that 1-100- and $30,000 book collection. It's not gathering dust in some unused library. It's inspiring guests, educating visitors, and serving as a reminder that the most precious gifts are the ones that come from understanding what someone truly values. Because I've learned that the most meaningful revenge isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right, over and over again until the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Have you ever had to choose between peace and family? Sometimes the most powerful revenge is walking away and building something extraordinary. If my story resonated with you, hit like, subscribe to Silent Revenge, and share your truth in the comments. Because sometimes justice whispers and still echoes forever.